All right, we are back, and you're listening to Image Home Improvement Live here, and we've got a lot of ground we've covered today, Dan.
That's right.
And that's not saying that we're talking about that just because Robin used to be in the landscape business.
Oh.
But
Well, I got out of that and got divorced at the same time. Best move I ever made.
I told you. When are we going to start that new show?
What?
Downsize and Divorce? When is that going to start that?
Yeah, you and I have got that pretty much covered.
We need to do that.
Right?
We need to do that.
How to drop over 150 pounds in less than 5 minutes.
Oh, Dan!
Of course, that's probably what your ex-wife weighed. My ex-husband is probably more like 215. But yeah, it kind of works out the same way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Immediate weight loss.
Oh, absolutely. Best part of the weight loss. Yeah.
Dan, you're just unbelievable. All right, let's get down to Jennifer's story, because it is a story that's near and dear to my family, and one of the things that I really say that she's a trooper for, and we love her dearly. But I want her to share her story with all of you, because I know there are a lot of people out there that really need to hear this story, and how she's actually going to spread the word of her experience, not just here in Arizona, but throughout the country. So, Jennifer, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story?
Sure. So, back in September or October of 2017, my husband and I were traveling quite a bit. It was a busy time for us, and so we had taken a few trips, and we got back from one of those trips. I think it was maybe the fifth one, and I started to not feel so great. I had some back pain, some flu-like symptoms, and it just was going on and didn't seem to be getting better. So after about 2 weeks, my husband said, you really got to go see your doctor. If this was the flu, you should have been feeling better by now. So I went in, I saw my doctor, and he said, your symptoms don't all seem to be going together like a normal flu would. He said, so I'm going to do a blood test. We're going to see what's going on. So he took a blood test, and he called me that night, and he said, I don't want to scare you, but I need you to get to the emergency room. And I said, the emergency room? What are you talking about? And he said, your hemoglobin is half of what it should be, and you could have a stroke or a heart attack at any minute. Now, mind you, I'm 41 years old, have always been fairly healthy. The month before, I was in Belize climbing Mayan ruins and ziplining, and I thought, like I said, I just had a little cold flu going on. So I went to the emergency room, and they did 2 blood transfusions, and then they said, okay, we need to find out what's going on with you. So they started asking some really personal, health history questions, and they said, we need to find out where this blood loss is coming from. So they started talking about, female issues. Do you have heavy periods? No, mine are actually the opposite. And they said, well, what about in your stool? Are you seeing any blood in your stool? And I said, actually, yeah, I have been. So they said, okay, well, we're going to take a CT scan and see what's going on. So they did a CT scan, and they came back and they said, well, we found a mass in your rectum, and we're going to need to go in and do a biopsy. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's an internal hemorrhoid, there's something going on, and they'll get it taken care of. So they did the biopsy, and I'll never forget, I woke up out of the anesthesia, and my husband and my best friend were there, and the doctor said, we went in, we took the biopsy. He said, I sent it out, but I've seen this before, and I'm 90% sure that it's cancer. And I can't even explain to you what that feeling was like. I mean, like I said, I've always been healthy, never had any problems. So I said, well, I'm sure it's not cancer. So that's fine, check the biopsy, but I'm sure that that's not what it is. So later on that day, they came back. It did come back positive for cancer. And they said, now we need to check to see if it's spread anywhere else in your body. And I said, well, of course it hasn't spread anywhere in my body. I didn't even know I was sick. I've only been sick for 2 weeks, so I'm sure that it hasn't.
2 weeks of symptoms.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So they did an x-ray, and they found some spots on my lungs. And they said, we need to go ahead and check to see if this is that same cancer. And they did a lung biopsy, and it came back that it was. So an oncologist came into my room, and he said, unfortunately, the cancer has spread and it's in your lungs. It's considered stage 4. And at this point, with stage 4 colorectal cancer, you have about an 11% chance of survival. So it was devastating. It was shocking. My husband and I never imagined that we would be facing something like that, especially, like I said, at such a young age.
Sure. I mean, okay, so at that point, or I should say, at what point did you tell yourself that I'm not going to accept this?
Actually, it was my husband who said it in the hospital. Oddly enough, you know him, but for those of you who don't, the oncologist that was in my room who told me that I was going to die, my husband said, no, that's not going to happen. Get out. He kicked the oncologist out of my hospital room, and he said, I don't care who this guy is. I don't care what he knows. We're going to find you the best doctors in the world. We'll go anywhere. We'll spend any amount of money, and we're gonna get through this. So he was really my rock in keeping me positive and focused, because that is something that other people had told me, that your attitude really makes a huge difference. And I am living proof of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've gotten through. You got to the point where you got through the chemotherapy, and then you had your 2 operations, and then you were now at the point of remission.
Yeah, I was diagnosed on October 29th, 2017, and as of February 4th, 2019, I am in remission.
That's really good. And that deserves a round of applause.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And like I said, when you believe in something, and I'm sure, Brian, I always knew that he was a rock for you, and that he would always be there for you and do whatever it took to make sure that you were safe and well. And and I really thank him for that, because you're so special to me, and you guys are both very special.
He's amazing. I definitely credit a lot of my being where I am today because of him. It's hard. I read a study that said that 60% of women diagnosed with a terminal illness, their partners will leave them. And that's huge. It's devastating. And I get it. Being a caretaker is difficult. Brian really did a lot for me. When I first got out of the hospital after my first surgery, I couldn't walk up and down the stairs. I stayed in bed for probably a month. And so it was him who, he worked, he made my meals, he got my medication. It's hard. And I can see where it would tear a couple apart. And I am so blessed that it really did the opposite for my marriage. We are rock solid. He is unbelievable. We are such a team. And he would say that to me. I would wake up crying at 2 a.m. and say, I'm so sorry that you're having to do this for me. And he said, we're a team. We're in this together. And he really proved it.
Yeah, that's really good.
That's what real love is.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I don't think I knew really the definition of marriage vows and what love was until going through this last year. You never think that when you get married at 26 that, someday these are the things you're going to be dealing with.
One of you is going to have to be the caregiver for the other.
Exactly.
Yeah. Without limits.
Right, without limits.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, fast forward.
Yes.
From that first diagnosis of being in remission. Okay. Obviously, we know from just your story, and I knew from when it happened that it changed your life.
Absolutely.
Okay, but you want to take it another step further now.
I do.
And tell us a little bit about that, because that's just another thing that is going to be so great, not just for you to be able to experience and discuss it, but also for people in the community.
So early on in my diagnosis, I had decided that I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to tell people. I didn't want anyone to know. I was embarrassed. I was sick. I had looked horrible. I didn't want people to see me like that. But I needed hope. I needed other people who had survived and who had been through what I had been through. So I sought that out. the Colorectal Cancer Alliance has a wonderful buddy system where they pair you with people who've been through what you've been through. And that really helped me. I searched on Facebook and social media to find other people that were going through what I went through. So then fast forward to now when I was in remission, I said, what am I doing? Why am I not talking about this? There could be somebody out there like me who's just starting this journey and doesn't know where to turn and doesn't know that things are going to be okay. And I made it here, so I really need to get over that feeling of embarrassment and be there for other people. So I am an actor, and I did beauty pageants when I was much younger, between the ages of 8 and 18. And I came across the Mrs. Arizona America pageant, and it really just stuck me as something that I needed to get involved with. I needed to be around these other women who were not just pretty faces in bikinis and evening gowns, but women who had solid platforms that were going out there and doing something for their community. So I am now the current Mrs. Maricopa County, and I will be competing for the title of Mrs. Arizona America next month in June, on June 9th. And a young onset colorectal cancer is my platform. I want to help educate people and be there for people and tell them my story in hopes that I can be a beacon of hope for other people who are going through the same thing.
You know, it's so very special that you're actually doing that. And I can't imagine that people that are in the space that you were in last year,
right,
before, just when you were diagnosed, that there are so many things, other than the medical part about it, right, and the doctors being able to help you, but just the support of not just, your husband, but all your friends,
right,
to be able to be there. And I think that's so important, because I can imagine people, I'm sure that when you first heard the news, it was devastating.
Oh, yeah.
And you didn't know who was there.
Yeah.
Who could I lean on? And you needed
right,
somebody to lean on. And I think everybody, all your friends, came to your rescue.
Yeah.
To be able to be there for you, to be able to help you get through this.
And in hindsight, it's interesting. Just in sharing my story recently, I've had so many friends be so supportive and come out, and I've found out that other friends have been through various cancer diagnoses, not necessarily colorectal, but breast cancer and cervical cancer and, throat cancer and esophagus cancer. And it really is amazing. I wish that I had shared my story earlier, because I think there would have been even so much more support than what I already had. So that's why it's important to me now to talk about it. And like I said, to hopefully help other people who are going through it, who don't know, where to start or what's going to happen. It's a scary thing to not know, where you're going to be in a year.
Yeah.
So if I can, give some people hope that there are options, and there's things that, you don't know that I learned about. I didn't know that going through radiation was going to put me into early menopause, and that my husband and I might not be able to have children. So I was really fortunate that I had an amazing radiation oncologist who sent me to a fertility doctor who, again, was just a lifesaver for me. And my husband and I went through embryo banking, and we're very excited. We have 2 embryos just waiting, a girl and a boy. We're hoping to implant the first one at the end of this year. And so it's wonderful that I've had these other doctors who were able to give me hope for the future when, originally diagnosed, there was no hope at all.
They gave you no options.
That's
None.
right.
Yeah.
That's
and
right.
That's just not right.
Yeah. Yeah. That first, I'll never forget that first doctor telling me that, 11% chance and of survival. But it's just not that way anymore. There are so many options when it comes to cancer. There are trials. My radiation oncologist actually told me there is never a time to give up hope. There are new trials and new drugs coming out every day. So you always have to hope, and you always have to keep fighting. Telling someone that there is no hope or that they're going to die takes that from you.
Yeah.
And I think that's more of a disservice than anything else is taking away someone's
That's right.
hope.
And I think the doctors, they need to tell you what's going on.
Right.
But there shouldn't be any talk of that.
Right.
Of, hey, we're going through this, and this is it. Okay.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be telling you that, you have an 11% chance of living.
Right.
Yeah,
or getting through this. I mean,
they should be giving you ideas of options.
Yeah.
Not just shutting the door.
because some people will not seek out. They will not seek out help or support like you did. So they will just, when they hear that bad news, they'll just slide into oblivion and they'll die.
Right.
I mean, and who needs that?
Well, and that's something else I learned through this process. I had, a couple of doctors give me not wonderful news, and I sought out second opinions, third opinions, fourth opinions, fifth opinions in some cases, and I think that's the key is you don't give up. You do look for other options. If doctors don't always know everything. There are other things happening, and some doctors will tell you this surgery isn't possible, and then another doctor will tell you, yes, it is. So I think being your own advocate and, wanting to survive and to find, new pathways is so important.
Yeah, it is.
Well, the most important thing is, I'm just going to say this because I am an advocate for domestic abuse, and I spoke out about something that happened. So right there is the key. She is speaking out. So bravo to you for being brave enough to share your story and to let everybody know that it's not something to be embarrassed about. You have to take your health into your own hands. And I wish my husband would have been more in that mindset when he died of cancer at the age of 36. So
oh my gosh.
I think it's great that you're doing that. So keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That's great. Jennifer, tell our listeners how they could learn more about your story and your Facebook page.
Sure. If you go on Facebook and you go to Mrs. Maricopa County, my name is Jennifer Ruddle, and you will find my Facebook page, and my story is listed there. And for anyone out there who is looking to sponsor me, I have sponsorship opportunities listed on my Facebook page. You can get in touch with me there, and I'd love to share my story some more.
That's great. That's great. And Jennifer, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And we'd love to have you here, and first time, but not the last. And
yes.
Like I said, after she wins Mrs. Arizona, we will have her back in June. Well, come on, I'm biased. Come on.
I think I'm going to steal her, too, and put her on Life Happens.
See, there you go. You and Duffy and Jennifer. Yes. I love that.
Well, because Jennifer and I have a connection.
We
both
do.
I know. We've known each other for years as actors, and we didn't know it until today.
I know. See
that? It's just an enlightening day. Fate.
I'm telling you.
Fate. This is great. All right. I love it.